First, a disclaimer. In the video you're about to see, I'm gonna make a fool of myself by mispronouncing a couple of Scandinavian names. There we are. Oh, hi and welcome to Murdock's Music Minute. Let's climb the tower. Or drop the needle. Making myself comfortable in the indie corner of the channel with a double album by a band that has released a couple of double and even triple albums during their long and prolific career. Today I'll take a deeper dive into Motorpsycho's, I believe, 18th or 19th studio album, not counting numerous EPs and one-off side projects. The Tower from 2017. Before we go all epic, a little band biography for everyone who's not a psychonaut. Motorpsycho from Norway started as a kind of alternative metal band in the mid to late 80s. The constant members always were Bent Sæther, vocals and bass, and Hans Magnus Rian, guitar, vocals, as well as original drummer Kjell Runar Jensen. Hans and Bent attended the same high school. Their debut album, Lobotomizer, was released on the independent label Voices of Wonder. Shortly afterwards, the band's first drummer, Kjell, left and was replaced by Håkon Gebhardt. These three for a long time should form Motorpsycho. The band name was nicked from the Russ Meyer film of the same name, a 1965 low-budget flick about sex and violence evolving around a motorbike gang. For a short while, the band expanded to a quartet with the addition of noise enthusiast and art school student Helge Deathprot Sten. Together with him, Motorpsycho recorded their second regular full-length release, and it was already a double LP, Demon Box, which wildly extended and changed their sound. This put them on the map in the Norwegian alternative scene. Never shying away from experimentation and prolificness, the next album even became a triple album, 1994's Timothy's Monster. It saw the band including influences from psychedelic rock and classic 60s rock to their own brand of alternative rock. Helge Sten afterwards left the band as an official member, but remained a producer for the group. Since then, Motorpsycho frequently had additional musicians on their records and live on tour, but at the core have always remained a trio ever since. Timothy's Monster was an indie success, but the band kept stylistically restless and full of curiosity. Motorpsycho then embarked on a phase in which they sonically embraced a more cerebral alternative rock sound informed by bands like Sonic Youth. This was most notable on their next album, Blizzard, released in 1996. Despite stressful and difficult recording sessions, the album finally won the band the Norwegian Spellemannsprisen for Best Rock Record. The noisier Angels and Demons at Play from 1997 continued this path, but was a more chaotic and darker album, again winning a Norwegian Music Award. In 1998, the band's sound changed yet again. Though by now, fans of the band were used to the trio's eclectic approach that defied clear genre attribution. Trust Us was a more psychedelic album, starting a phase in which Motorpsycho flirted heavily with experimentation and sounds from the late 60s. Extensive live touring followed, but by 2000 the band already was back in the studio, releasing a hard-rocking mini-album called Barracuda and the more songwriting and 60s-oriented acoustic album Let Them Eat Cake. That release went to number 1 in their home country, Norway. And now another exercise in pronunciation. Phanerothime, their next album, became even more melodic and influenced by psychedelic pop. Together with Let Them Eat Cake, this can be considered Motorpsycho's most tuneful and commercially appealing phase. Each band member wrote their own material, resulting in a kaleidoscope of retro rock songs that, in terms of Motorpsycho, were almost overproduced but showed the former alt-rockers could write beautiful songs if they wanted to. Phanerothime also reached number 1 in Norway and also charted in Germany. It's a Love Cult from 2002 continued in the psychedelic vein, but the band felt they had exhausted this more melodic style. In true unpredictable Motorpsycho style, the next album was a collaboration with the horn section of Jagga Jazzist and thus turned out a more jammy affair. After that, Motorpsycho seemed to have reached a point where they openly contemplated the end of the band. Longtime drummer Gebhardt left the band in 2004, leaving Motorpsycho as a duo with an uncertain future for a while. But they soon decided to go on and just as a duo. Bent and Hans Magnus recorded Black Hole Black Canvas, which returned to a harder alternative rock sound. The album opened a new chapter in the history of the band, reaching number 2 in their home country and a moderate 85 in Belgium. Yet soon they found a new drummer in the versatile and speedy Kenneth Kapstad, a schooled jazz drummer who could rock hard as well on his instrument. From then on, the band's music became more and more complex and adventurous, reflecting a certain alternative rock meets prog rock style. The next years saw a stream of highly ambitious and complex albums, all oscillating somewhere between heavy rock, progressive, psychedelia and space rock. Little Lucid Moments from 2008 started that neo-prog trip of the band, which hasn't ended to this day. The album contained tracks of epic length, and the title track was a wild jam consisting of several parts. Child of the Future, recorded in only 4 days during an intense studio session by Steve Albini in 2009, was a vinyl-only release marking the band's 20th anniversary. Again, Motorpsycho blended hard rock with spacey psychedelia. This direction was expanded and refined by the band on 2010's Heavy Metal Fruit, produced for the first time by an external person, the renowned Norwegian producer Kåre Vesterheim. The album boasted 10 and 20-plus minute heavy prog monsters, such as Gullible's Travails, and underlined the band's new image as a serious, modern prog rock band. But Motorpsycho could do even more epic and bonkers, as demonstrated by their next album, for many fans one of their very best, the psychedelic prog concept work The Death-Defying Unicorn, released in 2012. The record was the result of a project together with keyboardist Ståle Storlaken, the Trondheim Jazz Orchestra and the violinist Ola Kvernberg for the Molde Jazz Festival. The adventurous and metaphysical story of a shipwreck not only made its way into the hearts and ears of fans of modern prog rock, but was also voted one of the 150 most important prog albums of all time by the magazine Eclipsed, a German publication specializing in metal, art rock, krautrock, and progressive styles. This would not remain the only art project for the band. Since then, Motorpsycho have done music for museum exhibitions and theater productions. After this tour de force, both on record and live on stage, the band felt they needed to go back to their more straightforward rock roots a bit. For a while, they became a 4-piece again with a second guitarist. The albums coming out of that configuration were hard rocking in a late 60s kind of spirit, but still kept up the prog leanings, even gaining the band new fans. In 2015, the band released Here Be Monsters, a more meditative album based on a commissioned work for the 110th anniversary of the Norwegian Technical Museum in Oslo. The music was more subtle, combining psychedelia with post-rock, and was critically acclaimed. It should be their last album with virtuoso drummer Kenneth Kopstad, who left the group in 2016 in order to concentrate on his work with psychedelic alt-metal band Spider God. A new drummer was soon found in Swedish rock and jazz drummer Thomas Järmyr. This new trio embarked on a trip to the Californian desert for another epic album. Whew. Welcome back. We've made it through the discography and history of Motorpsycho until 2017. This was when they started their so-called Gullvåg trilogy, named after the painter Håkon Gullvåg. They'll hate me in Norway. Who provided the artwork for 3 consecutive albums. It's a very distinct artwork, and it is my intention to sooner or later go through the entire album trilogy. But for now, let's start with The Tower. This is my original pressing from 2017. The artwork, before I talk about the artwork itself, the design, the sleeve design is strikingly simple, but quite effective, because this is not your ordinary sleeve where you can really put in the records or slide in the records. Basically what this is just a bit of cardboard that is folded together, and you can unfold it here. So here you have the records. It also came, which is always nice, with a download code. So you can simply unfold this record cover, or simply the cardboard, and then you get the full picture. So this is the album. Håkon Gullvåg, and then once more, I'm really sorry for my bad pronunciation. Style of painting is quite distinct. You will also see it on the other 2 albums in the trilogy. This motif here, of course, evokes the famous Tower of Babel painting. The Tower of Babel, a vile, megalomaniac human project that is bound to fail, also due to divine intervention. And this already gives you a clue, a bit of a clue, what the themes running through this album are. And if you just want to have the short version of what this album is about, look no further than the carving on the run-out groove on side 4 of the album. I guess it's not visible now in the video, but if you look very closely, it says there, "Death to Douchebaggery." The albums themselves are also different on each side. On the label you have also details from the painting. So each side has a different image. Just simply a black jacket. And on the sleeves, or posters inside, you get the credits and also the lyrics. Motorpsycho on this album are Bent Zether, bass guitar as always, and vocals. He also produced this album together with Dave Raphael. You have Hans Magnus Rian on guitars, vocals, and keyboards, and the new drummer Thomas Järmir on drums, percussion, and also background vocals. And there was a bit of additional help by Alan Johannes, who provided a bit of guitar, cigar box guitar, and flute on one track. More about that if you stay tuned. Alan Johannes at first was intended to become the producer of this album. Among others, he had worked with the Queens of the Stone Age and Chris Cornell, but clashing time schedules were the reason that this did not come to pass. However, he is featured here as a guest musician on several tracks. The album was recorded in the USA, in Los Angeles, and in Joshua Tree. It was the first time that Motorpsycho recorded in the United States. And this was also the first album to feature or to introduce their new drummer. After an intro with tender mellotron and a bit of guitar, he kicks off the album with forceful rock drumming, while the rest of the band provides a heavy wall of stoner metal meeting progressive textures. There is mellotron, aggressive bass, and loud guitars. The track also offers some musical changes, and there is a more loose instrumental jam in the middle. There are great dynamics in their playing. In fact, they sound as if they had played in this lineup for years already. And from this track alone, one can hear that this is going to be an album of epic, but maybe also sometimes exhausting proportions. Lyrically, the song introduces the themes that run through a number of songs on the tower: a sense of doom and apocalypse, disillusionment with the way that society is heading in, especially politically, and an overall sense of fear and frustration. But Motorpsycho are not simply the prophets of the end of the world under megalomaniac leaders. Their remedy always is love. Pray your leaders are the wisest of men. Pray they are not easily riled. Pray they seek concord and never go looking for fights. Pray their aim is to reconcile. As heavy as a lot of the music sounds on this album, Motorpsycho are hippies at heart.
So resist, never succumb to fear. Love is found everywhere. Love is pure.
The rather doom-laden and slightly apocalyptic feel prevails on the next track, Bartok of the Universe, a metal-influenced track that gallops like a juggernaut and features some mean riffs and wicked guitar playing. What is a Bartok? It sounds dangerous, and I don't think it refers to the Hungarian classical composer, but maybe some Motorpsycho fans know better. Even though the lyrics talk of a brave new world, there clearly is something dystopian at work here. if that wasn't enough stoner doom from the desert, the next track, ASFE, clearly bows before the mighty Black Sabbath. Another 6-minute riff beast that drives on relentlessly but is also hypnotically catchy. We are warned not to follow blindly or simply listen to what we want to hear. You know it. But who's paying? You and you and you.
There's a song for everyone, and a singer for every song. There's a song for everyone, and a singer for every song.
Maybe one way to escape from all the madness outside also is to sink into one's inner self. A journey that track 4 takes us on. Intrepid Explorer is an excellent example of those repetitive psychedelic space rock build-ups that Motorpsycho have become the masters of since the days of the Little Lucid Moments album. This song is a gentle, mesmerizing dive into a vortex based on a simple bass guitar motif. For some, this may sound like an overlong, repetitive drone, but Motorpsycho fans probably will enjoy the layers that are gradually added until the song reaches a dynamic climax and then finds a tender, gentle ending, always staying in the same musical loop. Better don't listen to this when driving at night. And now we finally get to a shorter, more concise, and more conventional song. Stardust is a little acoustic ballad introducing the more West Coast sounding part of the album with harmony vocals and a tranquil mellotron. A declaration of love to humanity, reviving the old flower power notion that we are all made of stardust. After this nice palate cleanser, the harder guitars are back with a cool riff for track number 6. In every dream home, there's a dream of something else. A dusty hard rocker about our greedy society in which our desires are never fulfilled because immediately we want something new or something else. But even such a relatively straightforward rock song comes with something extra when it's played by Motorpsycho. In the middle, there's an unexpected softer break with an even more unexpected flute solo. I think that's pretty cool. We've reached the second record of the double album now with the breezy, more upbeat acoustic The Maypole, which seems to harken back to the more song-oriented 60s pastiche phase of the band from the early 2000s. In a stark contrast to the content before, the words to this one are psychedelic folk about the summer solstice and pagan rites. hippies at heart. For some listeners, these shorter, softer tracks might come across like unbefitting filler. I personally really enjoy them on this album as they provide a certain balance and have got their own charm. And yet, we've got two more epics ahead of us. First, the 15-minute A Pacific Sonata, a song of two sides. The first half is a gorgeous, dreamy acoustic ballad taking us to the sunny beaches of Malibu, always with an air of the late 60s or early 70s. The second half, after a tasty guitar solo, turns into an entirely psychedelic instrumental jam, evolving around a hypnotic phrase on the piano. That second part feels like an add-on. It's not mandatory to the song and probably will test the patience of some listeners, especially that late on an album that is already sprawling. But it's got a beauty of its own. And I'd even say that A Pacific Sonata is one of the key tracks of this album.
Come to rally me. The Pacific air will let you disappear. Hear the music on the spheres.
Next up is The Cuckoo. Again, a heavier, proggy alt-rock track that reintroduces the more political or social commentary. I guess everybody will have their own interpretation as to who that cuckoo is that settled in and will claim everything we've known. The music is dense and dark, and to me, while still a solid Motorpsycho track, this one is the least memorable cut on the album. And yet another epic, clogging in at 14 minutes. The album closer is called Ship of Fools. That, of course, is a metaphor from old literature and poetry. The ship of fools who are unaware that they are sailing a dangerous ocean, or who are unaware that they are steering their ship into danger, actually. These days, we really should be careful not to crew a ship of fools. Once more, Motorpsycho display their special approach to a cross between heavy rock and progressive rock in an impressive manner on this stunning finale. Especially when played live, this song develops a certain intensity. Whew! The Tower really is an album that is not easy to digest. And yet, the double album, again, was very successful in Norway, number 3 in the charts there, and it got close to the top 50 in Germany. This album is bombastic and lengthy and sometimes meandering and undisciplined, but that is to be expected from the proggier Motorpsycho releases of the last 20 years. You are either drawn into this music or you're not. And after all, they give you a lot of material for your money's worth. In addition to that, fans of clear-cut genres might have difficulties with Motorpsycho, because this is a band that I've heard being accused of being too heavy by prog rock fans or being too artsy by metal and hard rock fans. But I found out that bands that sort of fall between categories in recent times are bands where I come in and say, hey, that's music for me. If you feel the same, give Motorpsycho a try. I think they are hardly known in the USA or in the UK. I'm a bit hesitant to say start with this album. It is a lot, but that notwithstanding, The Tower is one of my favorite Motorpsycho releases. They put all the material and all the ideas they had on top of each other to create an intimidating, slightly grotesque, but also fascinating tower of tracks. There is a lot of love for music and for other musicians that influenced them in the music of Motorpsycho. And that was only part one of an unofficial album trilogy. Thanks, and stay tuned for more if you can.